Okay, welcome again, everybody. We've got another great presentation coming up on the Joint Commission. We've got Britton, Carissa, Kylie, and Whitney are here. So I'm just going to turn the time on over to them.
All right, so our presentation is on the Joint Commission, formerly the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations. And let's get started on the next slide. Okay, so what does accreditation mean? Accreditation is the act of granting credit or recognition, especially to an educational institution that maintains suitable standards. Accreditation is necessary to any person or institution in education that needs to prove that they meet a general standard of quality. If you earn a teaching certificate, then you have an accreditation to teach. Usually you'll hear this word in relation to institutions like colleges and universities. Joint Commission accreditation can be earned by many types of healthcare organizations, including hospitals, doctors' offices, nursing homes, office-based surgery centers, behavioral health treatment facilities, and providers of home care services. Accreditation means to prove your quality and certification or license. So next slide, please. Okay, so when was the Joint Commission founded and by whom? It was founded in 1951 by Dr. Ernest Amory Codman, and more on Dr. Codman on the slide to follow. So next slide, please. Okay, so Ernest Amory Codman. It was his lifelong pursuit to establish an end result system to track the outcomes of patient treatments as an opportunity to identify clinical misadventures that serve as the foundation for improving the care of future patients. He also believed that all of this information should be made public so that patients could be guided in their choices of physicians and hospitals. Once a prominent surgeon on the staff of the Massachusetts General Hospital, Dr. Codman eventually established his own hospital to pursue the performance measurement and improvement objectives he believed in so fervently. With an almost infinite interest in healthcare quality, Dr. Codman also helped lead the founding of the American College of Surgeons and its hospital standardization program. That latter entity eventually became the Joint Commission. So from this short summary, we know that it was Dr. Codman's goal to improve patient care by establishing the end result system, which would track the progress following patient treatment. He wanted to provide a way of better educating patients when it came time for them to make a choice concerning which hospital they would go to and which doctor or physician they would see. Next slide, please. So what is the Joint Commission's purpose? Their mission statement is to continuously improve healthcare for the public in collaboration with other stakeholders by evaluating healthcare organizations and inspiring them to excel in providing safe and effective care of the highest quality and value. And their vision statement is for all people to always experience the safest, highest quality, best value healthcare across all settings. So that being said, when a healthcare organization, so hospitals, doctors' offices, nursing homes, office-based surgery centers, behavioral health treatment facilities, and providers of home care services, is it one of those accredited through JCAHO, you know that it is a trustworthy accreditation. Next slide, please. Okay, and what is the significance of the word joint? So the name change from JCAHO to the Joint Commission International was part of an overall effort to make the name easier to remember and to position the Commission to continue to be responsive to the needs of organizations seeking fee-based accreditation. Even though the Joint Commission changed their name to make it shorter and easier to remember, they still have the same mission and values. As we learned in Lesson 5's reading, the significance of the word joint comes from the combined effort by the American Hospital Association and the American College of Surgeons. Next slide, that will take you to Whitney's slide.
Okay, what kinds of organizations are eligible for Joint Commission accreditation? Many types of healthcare organizations are eligible, such as hospitals, doctors' offices, nursing homes, office-based surgery centers, ambulatory care, behavioral health care treatment centers, home care, and laboratory services. Next slide, please. Who are the Joint Commission's competitors? Det Norske Veritas, Healthcare Inc., or DNB. The DNB has been accrediting healthcare facilities since September 2008. Being new to the accreditation organization, they have since accredited nearly 500 hospitals. DNV Healthcare Incorporated is an operating company of Det Norske Veritas, which is in Oslo, Norway. DNV has been operating in the US since 1898. Another competitor is the Healthcare Facilities Accreditation Program, or HFAP. The HFAP was created in 1945 to conduct an objective review of services provided by osteopathic hospitals. HFAP is a not-for-profit organization. Next slide, please. How do they differ from their competitors? The Joint Commission was founded in 1951. Since then, it has been the top accreditor. It accredits and certifies 21,000 healthcare organizations in the United States. The Joint Commission is an independent, not-for-profit organization. One thing that helps them stand out is the Joint Commission is governed by a 32-member board of commissioners made up of physicians, nurses, employers, administrators, quality experts, and educators. The Joint Commission's mission, as stated before, is to continuously improve healthcare for the public in collaboration with other stakeholders by evaluating healthcare organizations and inspiring them to excel in providing safe and effective care of the highest quality and value. The Joint Commission has an objective evaluation process that can help healthcare organizations measure, assess, and improve performance. The Joint Commission is the #1 most recognizable name in the healthcare accreditation. The Joint Commission welcomes competition because it challenges them to constantly assess themselves to ensure they are doing everything they can to assist healthcare organizations in providing the safest and highest quality patient care. These are a few things that help them differ from their competitors. And that takes us to the next slide, which is Kylie.
Actually, back one slide. So the Joint Commission accredits approximately 4,023 general, pediatric, long-term acute, psychiatric, rehabilitation, and specialty hospitals. This figure is approximately 77% of the nation's hospitals that are currently accredited by the Joint Commission. But in all of the hospitals across the United States that are accredited, 88% of those have received their accreditation through the Joint Commission. Next slide, please. Deemed status. So what is deemed status? Deemed status is a term that's used to describe a healthcare organization that has met the standards to receive federal payment for Medicare and Medicaid. So there's a process through which an organization has to go to receive certification. So they will receive either a COP, which is conditions of participation, or conditions of coverage. So to receive one of these certifications, they have to undergo a survey by an organization that is either a state agency under the direction of the federal government, or by an accredited organization such as the Joint Commission. After undergoing this survey, if their organization has found if they've been found to meet or exceed the standards of the requirements set forth by the federal government, then they receive what's called deemed status, and then they are able to participate in Medicare or Medicaid payments. Next slide.
Okay. The Joint Commission survey process, surveys are unannounced, but this generally includes the initial survey. Because of this, an organization, the first time that they speak to the Joint Commission, they need to know when the Joint Commission is going to come and how the survey is going to be conducted. And so typically in those first surveys, they will receive a specific date from the Joint Commission. Surveys are specific to the organization being evaluated, and they seek to measure that particular organization's performance of functions that are intended to improve the quality of care offered to their patients. According to the Joint Commission website, surveys are typically carried out by tracing the care delivered to patients, residents, or individuals served, reviewing information and documentation provided by the organization, and observing and interviewing staff and, if appropriate, patients. Once a survey has been carried out, the findings that were found during the survey are evaluated to assure that they're in compliance with the Joint Commission standards and requirements called elements of performance. And they're evaluated against these elements of performance, and an accreditation decision will be issued to the particular hospital at a later date. Next slide, please. Okay, why choose to be accredited by another organization? As we learned earlier in the presentation, there are two other major accreditation programs that are very well recognized: the Healthcare Facilities Accreditation Program and the Det Norske Veritas Healthcare. There are some differences across each organization, and so some of the reasons that a hospital might choose to be accredited by a different organization in lieu of the Joint Commission could be differences in cost. Just the fact that these other organizations are newer, have a smaller clientele, and can still provide an equally valuable accreditation. Other accreditation organizations have slightly different standards, which may be easier to meet for certain hospitals and organizations than the standards of the Joint Commission. And different accreditation organizations have slightly differing goals, which may be more in line with the mission of the particular hospital being surveyed. Next slide, please. If anyone has any questions or would like any more information about the information that we've covered in the slides, they can feel free to refer to these works cited pages and the websites that we provided, which give more in-depth detail about each of these particular topics.
Okay, is that it for you guys?
Yep.
Cool, very good job. If you want to, I'll just go ahead and unmute. We'll open up for a quick question and answer. After your research and what you're able to read up on, would you be hesitant or would you not go to a hospital that is not accredited at all?
I think for me it would depend on the reputation of the hospital, but I think it would be important to know that it is meeting specific requirements and standards.
I think definitely it is really important for a doctor's office or a hospital or whatever to be accredited by the Joint Commission or by the other accreditors.
Would you be hesitant to go to a hospital that isn't, that you find out's not accredited?
I would be.
Have any of you guys looked to see what your nearby hospital that you go to or would go to, see if they're accredited and if they are, by who?
I was noticing on lesson 5's, something in lesson 5 that just some of the hospitals around the area that I grew up, so that Madison Memorial Hospital and ERMAC are both accredited by the Joint Commission.
Okay. Why would you say that they've changed the name from JCAHO to Joint Commission? Did anyone of you notice that in your research?
It mostly just said that they wanted to make it a smaller, more easy to remember name. That's mostly what I found from it. I don't know if anybody else found anything more.
Okay, I actually don't really even know the answer to that, so I thought I'd ask, because one thing I've noticed with this course is I believe we're working on updating it, but I believe in a lot of ways they call it JCAHO when they've made a real effort to call it the Joint Commission. So just be aware of that in your studies, you know, as you read up on it, and that's for everybody as well. So I guess let's just do one last question here. What I'd like for one of you to do is pretend that you are an administrator for a hospital, and I'd like to hear you make a case on being accredited by an accreditation body other than Joint Commission. Or if you would honestly think that there's no real advantage to being accredited by a different one, that's okay too.
Let's see.
I was gonna say, if I was accredited by another organization, it would be Det Norske. Det Norske, some of its administrators used to help prepare hospitals for Joint Commission surveys, and he said one of the key things was that when they went in to prepare for the survey for the Joint Commission, hospitals would put on their best faces, but as soon as the survey was over, it changed. So DNV or Det Norske, one of its key points is to make a difference after the survey is over, to continue instead of just putting a face on. And DNV also does annual surveys where the Joint Commission only does a survey every 18 months to 3 years.
Oh, very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. We will wrap things up unless anyone wants to add anything else before I let you all go. All right, then. Great job. I appreciate the time and effort that you put into this presentation. I'm sure your fellow classmates did as well. I'll get this posted on for everybody else to watch. But thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.